Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in this section we are going to cover the final piece, which is to do with how I migrate my Access web apps to PowerApps. And in this section, we're going to focus on building the edit screen and then the edit view. So as a recap, you had seen that we focused a lot of our attention on this view screen over here, but now we need to take it to the next level for building the edit. So what I have to do now is one of the first things we need to do is actually build this edit icon, or in this case, it's a delete icon because the edit icon is already over here. So that's a new icon that I added. So that was the first thing, and adding this icon was pretty much the exact same thing as all the other icons which I've mentioned in the second video over there. So now that that's completed, I'll basically just go and click on it so you guys can see that it was the same process. I went ahead and added the icon over there, which was basically that X or the cancel, and then I also added the circle around it, and so I just made that as one group. So that's that section over here. The next thing I want to do is I also want to go ahead and add some more global variables, and as I've mentioned that in the article on the tech community, one of the reasons for this variables will be more used towards the edit screen. So to build this global variables, I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did before. One is I'll make sure that I'm going to click on the view screen over here. On the top left, I will click on start, because that's when I want these variables to take their existing default values. I want that default values to take effect when we are on start over here. And so to make it easier, I'll go ahead and add that set value. So we just copy that in. And this over here is the new variables. And then that's going to be each of their default values is going to be false. And so I need those variables now to go ahead and create the view, the edit screen, and then the edit form over there. So now that I've done most of the preliminary work over here, we are now going to go ahead and create and add the new screen. So to do that, it's pretty simple because we want to maintain the look and the feel. So one of the easier way to do that is I'll just go ahead and duplicate the view screen. So here's my view screen. I'll click on the ellipses or the three dots over there, and I'll select duplicate screen. Now, based on how much information and how complex your screen is, it can take a little bit of a while to duplicate it, but it's pretty fast. It doesn't really take that much time. So now you can see that I've gone ahead and I got the new screen. One of the first things I want to do is go ahead and save it. So let me click on File over here. Go ahead and save that. So that saving is complete. Let me just open up and expand this a little bit on the screen side, and you can see that it went ahead and gave me the new screen as view screen _1, which is fine. But what it does is, in order to maintain the unique controls and all of that, any of the controls we have, it'll also add that _1 for that, which is fine. So now that we've got that screen, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and change the name of that screen. That's the first thing I want to do. Click on the ellipsis, and I'll rename that. So I'm renaming this one to Add Edit Screen. And for now, I'll keep all of these other names as it is, but there's a few things that I do need to do. Since this is not a view screen, and because we're going to add the edit screen over there, there's a few things that we actually don't need over here, so we'll go ahead and delete that. So the ones that I'm going to delete, I've already highlighted that in the article, but I'll show you over here itself the ones we're going to delete. And those are basically all the tables that we created in the previous video. We don't need those tables over here, so I'll go ahead and delete that. So let me just quickly minimize some of this so you can just see the tables, and I'll go ahead and delete that. Okay, so here's one, 2, 3. We've got the viewing as well. All right, so let's go through that. The orders data table, we don't need that, so I'll go ahead and delete it. Again, click on the ellipsis, go ahead and delete that. Then the next thing is the customers data table. Let me delete that as well. Employees data table, same thing, delete it. The products data table, order view forms, both of those can go. All right, customers form a view, that's going away. And then the products and the employee. So let me just find all of these. Let's just delete them. So all three of these are going away. Okay. And so after we made this big change as well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and save it. So again, file, save. All right, so now that we've deleted those, we need to go and add the edit table, the form that we need. So I'll just make sure that I'm click on the correct screen, which is the add edit screen. Click on the insert over there, in forms. I'll go ahead and now select the edit. And so once the form comes up over here, it is going to ask you which one you want to move it to. For the sake of this example, I'm going to show you the one where we are editing the employees one. So let me go to the data source over here. If you remember in the previous video, we already got the data sources. So those are the SharePoint lists. I'm going to go and use the exact same lists. And then from there, I'm selecting employees. All right, so the mapping is complete. One of the first things I do is I go ahead and uncheck this box because I know I need to move around some of the columns. And then I'll just select the fields that I need in this case. So I know I'm going to need first name and last name. So let me just take off what I don't need. I think I don't need the ID. So I'll uncheck that. I'll uncheck employee number because I won't be needing that. All right, so first name, last name, all that I'll need. Email address I'll need. Pretty much everything else. City, zip, I'll need that. Emergency contact, yeah. Notes. All right, so the group ID, all of these I'm not going to need, so let me get rid of those. Group I'm not going to need. ID I won't need. Identifier I won't need. I'm basically just taking away columns that I'm not going to need in this case. Okay, so we're good now. Let me just move this around a little bit, make it a little cleaner. expanded. So for the sake of this example, I will leave it as it is. So we've got the gallery created. What I need to do now is actually go ahead and even name this gallery to something else. I mean the form to something else. So one thing is important. Let me go and save it. Because every work that you do, you want to make sure we don't lose it. Okay, let me go ahead and rename this guy. So I'll click on the three buttons or the ellipses over there. Not sure where that came from. Rename that. And I'll call that as add edit employee form. Okay, and then in the add and edit employee form, now that we've got that, in order for that, whatever you've selected the item over here, in order for us to add or edit it, in that form itself, you need to go up over here on the data source and select item. I'm going to select item over here. In the item, I'm going to type in this specific thing. It's basically the employee gallery, whatever I have selected over there, that needs to show up in this form. So selected. And so right now, that's basically what you're seeing over here, is that by default, it was the first one that was selected, and so that shows up over here, and then so on and so forth. We've gone ahead and now added the gallery. So now let's actually play around with some of these buttons which need to be active or disabled based on which we are. So if you think about it, we are in the add or edit screen, which means the only two things we need to do over here is either cancel out of it or we need to save it, which means these are the only two buttons that need to be active. The other three can actually be disabled. And so that's the only formulas that we're going to work around. If you go back to the blog that I've written, I've actually put some of the formulas over here. And so that's exactly the same thing I'm doing. I'm taking the formulas from the blog or which I've submitted over there, and I'm going to add it in this case. So, but for the sake of the example, let's go and actually walk you through it. So remember that when I mentioned that these icons are actually groups, because technically there's two icons. There is the circle, and then there's a plus, in this case, circle, trash can, circle, edit. So based on which one you're picking, which is the circle or the plus, you need to actually make these changes for them. So let me walk through the first one, which in this case will be save, because these are the two things that we want them to be active, and we actually want them to do something when we click on it. So when we click on this one over here, this is actually a group, and it is called as employee save group 1. Let me just expand that a bit. And in save, employee save group 1 over here, what I'll do is I'll expand it so you'll see the two things over here. One of the first things I want to do is to make sure that their color will change. So these two, in order for them to look active, they can basically stay at that same color, and the other ones can gray out. So over here, I'll just keep them as it is. But let me just show you how I went ahead and changed, made sure that the color remains that way. So for the employee, for the save button over here, the first thing I'm going to actually do is click only on the icon. So let me expand that so you can actually see the name over here. All right, so it's the employee save icon, and I want its border color. So let me select that action. It's the border color. And this is the default border color. So I'll still use this, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add that if condition. So here's what I'm typing in, is that if employee, just put in a space so I can start getting the IntelliSense to give me the options I have. Employee add edit variable equals and then false. Again, IntelliSense gives me over there. Then if it is, then I'll use the dim gray color. If not, I'll just use that and save that. So we added the employee add edit variable. It's not picking it up. So let me just go back to that first thing and make sure if it did, if we did make any mistakes or spelling mistakes. So again, before we do any of that, I'm going to save it so I can still capture everything I've done so far. So go back to that add edit screen over here. On start. I think I have a typo. Yep, that was just a typo. All right, so it's employees added a bit. Okay, so we've taken care of that. And so the next thing I need to do is now select on the save circle. And the same thing happens on the save circle, except that right now on the save icon, we did it on the border color. On the save circle, we're going to do it on the color. So let me click on the save circle and we go to the color over here. So that just took a little while because I was the one I was making change. That was because it was just a typo that I had. Okay, so on the save circle, it was actually the border. So let me just double check that. Now on the save icon, it was on, actually it should have been on the color. So let me go ahead and change that back. In fact, I'll copy it first. This is good because you guys can see real time, live almost, to see how I've actually made all these changes. So let me keep this. Okay, and for the save icon, it's not the border that I need to change. I just need to actually change the color of the icon because it's the circle that has the border, not the actual icon. So let me change that. And in this case, it should be a lot easier because I should just be able to copy and paste it. So let's see if that works. Okay, so that worked. And then on the save circle, we need to go to the border color. All right, so we're already there. Just delete that. Okay, so that takes care of that. And then finally, in the entire display group, which is over here, we need to go ahead and make sure that it is kind of hidden. The display mode itself should be hidden when we are not in the edit mode. So that's what I'm doing is I'm selecting it on the employees group over here. Actually, it's yeah, on the employees group. Go directly to display mode. And in the display mode, it is by default edit, and I'm going to change that to, well, I'll keep the edit, but it should only be in the edit option when we are in the edit screen. So what I'll do is I'll actually change that to if the variable this time I'll make sure that typo doesn't show up. I don't have that same typo. It's false. View. Okay. So now that we did that, I want to demonstrate that to you once again because we had a little bit of problem there. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but for this cancel button. So back to the cancel button over here. Again, it's two separate things. There's the circle, so over there we have to work on the border color, And on the cancel, which is the X, that's where we actually work on the color. So let's now find the two things. Let me expand that a little bit. Yep, there it is. It is, if you look close over here, you can kind of see that this one's the circle. And if you keep your mouse over there, it'll show you that's the circle and that's X. So if you're fine with just using that, I'll just select on that. So I know that this is a circle, and on the circle, we need to work on the border color. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm going to find the border color. Now the border color, again, the formula was very similar to what we did for the save. And I have the screenshot of this in the article as well, but here I'll go ahead and type that in. In this case, what I also do is I hit space, because that way now that IntelliSense can start picking up and giving you options. But if you did not have that space, IntelliSense still thinks that you're still using the RGBA over there. And so that's why it's not able to give you that, these options which you see over here. By options, I mean these. So it's always best to have that little gap, and for that you have to hit the space bar. Okay, so let me find that variable again, which is employees add edit equals false. If it's false, then give me that nice dim gray. Otherwise, you can use this RGB color, and then I'll just add that on the bracket. And so that takes care of the circle, which is the border color. And I need to do the exact same thing for the cancel, but that's in the border. So first thing is I got to click actually on that icon here. Then I go to the color this time. And now I should just be able to copy and paste. Okay, and then let me just go and save that once again. And then finally, I'm going to select on the entire group itself, and then add that same thing, that in the display mode, I want you to give it either view or the edit. So I go back now to display mode, which is right here. And then I don't want that to always be in edit. It should only be in edit mode when that variable is true. And so that's, again, that if condition I'm adding over there. Employees add edit variable equals false. If it's false, then let me just have it in view. Otherwise, let me have it in edit. So that's my if condition over there. So what I can do now is we can actually do a test. Let me save that again. It did not like something. Let's see what it is. Spelling mistake, all right. The same thing here. That's good. For some reason it didn't save it, so let me go and type that in again. saw that exclamation mark went away. All right. So what we can do is actually we can do a test. In fact, I should have gone on the other screen, but we'll just make sure that it works. We have the employee del group. We have the employee edit group. We just need to find the employee add edit group. There it is. So that's the one. So on the employee add edit group, on select, directly I'm going to add these formulas so you can see what I'm typing in over here. So for that one, on select, I need to make sure that those variables show up. So for that one, on select, I'm going to do the new form. Again, this one is mentioned in the article. That's going to be add edit form. Then I'm also going to set the values. And the reason I have to set the values, this is why that formula didn't work. The coloring didn't change because we had not set the values there. So what I'm going to do now, it's not select, it's set. So set. In the set, I'm going to use again the employee add edit variable true. So now I'll set that value over there. And then after that, I will navigate to the new screen. And I'll just make it a little fancy so the navigate looks a little faded look over there. So did that. Same thing I'm going to do, well, something similar on the delete, except on the delete, that formula is a little different. And the formula looks a little tricky, but it actually is the same formula. If you were to go ahead to your SharePoint online list and you want to create that edit, create a form from there, a custom form, that's where you actually get this type of formulas. And that's basically where I got the formula, is how do I delete something for that specific ID. And so here's basically the formula for that delete, and I'll show you. And again, it's available in the blog itself. So let me type that in and you'll see what that formula is. And I've already got that there for the delete. Employees, we're going to go and remove the employee, that's fine. And then for the edit, that's basically the formula which I had. And this if is empty errors, go ahead and go back. That's the one I was saying, is that if you really want to learn these formulas, go to any SharePoint list and create a customized form from that, and that's where you'll actually get these formulas. You just reverse engineer a little bit, and it makes a lot of sense on that. On the edit employee group, on select, here's another formula. Let's just check over there real quick. And so that's the formula that I need to put in over here. So on edit, I'm going to put in the edit form. The edit form is the add employee. I'm going to set put the semicolon, set. I'll set the value of that new variable. Add edit, come on. I'll set that value as true. Then I navigate to that form or that screen. And I'll give it that fade transition. So let me just go and save that. For the add one here, process is the exact same, because you see the add group, we've grouped the circle and we've grouped the add over here. So we need to make sure that we select on the circular one, and we select it on the plus one, and then we add that group functionality over there as well. So first thing we'll do is we'll select it on the circle, this one over here. I'm just selecting on that. And then on the circle one, it's the border color that needs to change. So let me click on the border color. And the border color is, again, pretty much the same thing. We will keep this color, but now we're going to add an if condition to that. So we just go there. It says if the employee, and again, like I said, if you want IntelliSense to start picking it up, I just put that little space over here. Employees add edit equals true. Then go ahead and use that dim gray. Otherwise, we will use this color. And that's that. Doesn't like this true over here. Let's see. It's not employee save color, it's employees add edit. Yep, all right, it took that. And then since I got it in one, let me copy that over. For the add icon, it's not bordered color, it's just in the color. So select that. Okay, found it. Let's delete that whole thing and paste it. Okay, so we got that. And then select the whole thing over here on the display mode, and then we'll disable it if need be. So here it's the display mode we need to change. If employees equals true, we'll use the display mode view, otherwise you can use the edit. Okay, so we got that one done. The process is the same for the save and the trash and the edit. So what I'll do is I'll just it's already available in the article, so you can basically follow those exact same things over there. So I'll pause over here and I'll switch over to the other screen so you can actually see that. So let me actually save this. So here's the finished product that I've shown. I also demonstrated that, but the key things I wanted to show was now that I run it, you see how the color changing and the disabled happens. So let me demonstrate that to you, because in the just previously we only did the employees one to add the add and edit screen, not just the screen but also the form. But over here, what I did was I went ahead and added all of them: the product, customer, and the orders. So let me just demo that to you. Now, when the forms, when the app first opens up, it has the add and edit for the employees variable is set to false by default. The same thing goes for add and edit for products, add and edit for customers and orders. They all have their own variable and they're all set to false. And if they are set to false, then all of these buttons show up as gray. But now, let me demonstrate that to you, because if you go to say add an employee or edit an existing employee, you see how the colors will change and they'll be edited or disabled. So as you can see over here, I'm just in the employees, still in the viewing the gallery over here and viewing the edit. You see the save and the cancel, not only are they grayed out, but they're also disabled. Because I'm clicking on it, nothing happens. But now with this one, the default as the top one or the bottom one, whichever one is selected. If I go ahead and say I want to edit it, then what happens is these two become active, and then they also become blue, which shows that the other one's active, while the other ones all get grayed out. The same thing happens for all the other ones too. Is if I want to go ahead and say, edit out either one of these other items in the gallery, I can go ahead and do that, or I can even go ahead and save it. So just as as a proof of concept, let me cancel out of this one. Let me go to products. Actually, we can even take customers, either one of them. Let's go to customers. And in the customers, same thing. By default, the cancel and the save are grayed out. But when I go to say add, or in this case it's edit, you see how the save and the cancel becomes active, or and the other ones get disabled. So that's basically the whole concept of how I was able to migrate from Access apps to PowerApps. I demonstrated the Access app before, and it was and we were able to get a good portion of that into PowerApps. A few things that I wanted to point out was in Access app how we were able to go ahead and put that images. So right now we don't have the option to add the image. However, you can go to that images gallery over there, which I showed. Go ahead and upload your image over there. Grab the URL from that and then add it to your products. So that way you can still keep adding new products over there. And it will show up in a form, except that you don't have the option to add that image from directly the Power App over here. Now you're welcome to go ahead and at least add the image basic product information over here, and then go back to SharePoint later on, because the item will already be there, and go ahead and take that link. So either way, you can either do it all over here minus the image, or you can do the whole thing over there in SharePoint with the image. That's one thing. Also, the entire proof of concept that I've shown over here, this is not just for migration to Access apps. You can actually take this whole proof of concept for another similar solution that you want, where all your lists and images are all in SharePoint, and you can take this example and build it as a full app from scratch, say for an iPad or a tablet. So this example kind of works both ways. It's a migration example for sure from Access apps, but it's also another great example to see how you can build such an app from scratch. So hope this was helpful. I demonstrated only a little bit in the video. The 3 blogs that I have on the tech community actually have a whole detailed write-up on that with screenshots and everything. And I hope this was helpful.